Welcome back. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Retail Horror Stories. Hit the like button and drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is for you. That way, YouTube knows to keep showing you more stories like this. Now, let's begin. I've always hated shopping, but my girlfriend Jenna lived for it. So when she begged me to come with her to IKEA one Saturday afternoon, I gave in, mostly because I wanted to keep the peace. The place was massive, practically a city within a building. Families pushed carts piled with flat-pack boxes. Kids darted between showrooms, and the constant hum of conversation echoed under the fluorescent lights. Jenna was in her element, moving from kitchen layouts to living room setups like a kid in a candy store. I tried to keep up, but after an hour of nodding politely while she debated between beige and gray sectional sofas, I told her I was going to wander and meet her later. She barely looked up from a coffee table catalog before waving me off. I followed the arrows painted on the floor, meant to guide shoppers through the maze, but the paths branched and curved in ways that didn't feel right. I walked past a bedroom setup, then a study, then another kitchen, only to turn a corner and find myself in yet another bedroom that looked almost identical to the first. I laughed to myself, shaking my head. IKEA was famous for its confusing layouts. That was part of the experience, right? But the further I walked, the quieter it became. The chatter of families faded until it was just the buzz of fluorescent bulbs and the squeak of my sneakers on polished floor. I pulled out my phone to text Jenna, but there was no signal. Weird, but I figured the concrete walls were interfering. I decided to double back and find one of the main walkways. Except when I turned around, the path wasn't the same. The showroom behind me wasn't the kitchen I had just passed. It was another living room, staged with a couch and TV stand I didn't recognize. I tried not to panic. I must have taken a wrong turn. I walked faster, looking for one of those overhead signs pointing toward the cafeteria or checkout. Instead, every corner revealed another showroom. More bedrooms, more kitchens, more dining tables. Each one slightly off, like they belonged to different versions of the same house. In one kitchen, the counters were a shade of green I'd never seen in an IKEA catalog. In another, the utensils hanging on the wall weren't IKEA branded at all, but dull, rusted tools that looked used. The air grew heavy, humid, as if I'd stepped into a greenhouse. "Hello?" I called, my voice bouncing across the empty room. "Is anyone here?" No answer. The silence gnawed at me. Even if I had wandered off, the store should have been full of people. It wasn't possible to be this alone in a building that size. I moved quickly, my chest tight. After what felt like 20 minutes of fast walking, I passed a showroom I swore I had seen before. A bedroom with a blue quilted comforter and a lamp shaped like a tulip. I touched the lamp. The bulb flickered on even though it wasn't plugged into anything. My stomach dropped. That's when I heard footsteps. "Jenna?" I shouted, relief washing over me. The footsteps stopped. I hurried toward the sound, weaving through a row of wardrobes, but the aisle was empty. A faint shadow lingered on the floor, stretching long against the glow of the overhead lights. But when I looked up, there was no one there. My breath caught. I backed away, only to crash into a dining table behind me. The plates rattled, though no one had set them. I started to run. I didn't care about the arrows on the floor anymore, I just wanted out. I sprinted through showroom after showroom, my lungs burning, my legs aching, but every turn led me deeper into the maze. Eventually, I stumbled into a section that looked unfinished. The walls were bare drywall, the ceiling pipes exposed. The furniture here wasn't polished showroom pieces. It was old, mismatched, stained with water damage. One sofa was torn open, stuffing spilling like guts. Another table was warped, as if it had been left in the rain. Something moved in the corner. A figure stood half hidden behind a wardrobe, too tall, its limbs unnaturally long, its head brushing the ceiling pipes. I froze, unable to breathe. The figure didn't move closer. It just stood there, watching. I bolted, not daring to look back. My shoes slapped against the floor as I tore through more showrooms, past broken lamps and cracked mirrors. When I finally collapsed, gasping, I found myself in a room I recognized. It was the same staged living room where Jenna and I had started, with the beige sectional sofa she loved. "Where have you been?" Jenna's voice snapped me out of my daze. She appeared from another aisle, frowning. "I've been texting you for 15 minutes. Why aren't you answering?" I looked at my phone. Dozens of missed messages lit the screen, but my call log showed over 3 hours had passed. I tried to explain, but the words sounded insane even to me. Jenna rolled her eyes, tugging my arm toward the checkout. "Come on, you're being dramatic. Let's go." I followed her, too exhausted to argue. But as we left, I glanced back at the showroom. The tulip-shaped lamp flickered once, like it was winking at me. That night, long after we'd left the store, I woke up sweating. I swore I could still smell that damp, heavy air. And when I turned on my bedside lamp, its glow flickered. Not white like normal, but the faint sickly yellow of IKEA's fluorescent lights. When I first took the job as night security at IKEA, I thought it would be easy money. All I had to do was walk the floors after closing, check the doors, and make sure no one was trespassing. The store was massive, sure. 3 stories of furniture displays, warehouses, and labyrinthine showrooms. But once the last customers left, it became as quiet as a tomb. At least, that's what I thought. By the second week, I noticed odd things that I couldn't shake. The first was a blanket. Not one of the thin, freshly folded ones IKEA stacked by the dozens, but a personal blanket worn down with years of use. It had little cartoon rockets on it, faded almost white from too many washes, frayed threads hanging loose. I found it tucked under a children's bed display. I figured a kid must have dropped it, so I picked it up and left it in the lost and found. The next night, it was back. Same blanket, same spot. That time, I left it where it was, though the hair on the back of my neck prickled as I walked away. The second thing was trash. A crumpled chip bag under a dining table, a juice box shoved behind a dresser. Once, a half-eaten apple core, browning and soft, sitting in a display sink. The cleaning crew swore they hadn't missed it. My supervisor shrugged. "Probably a lazy customer," she said. "Just pick it up." But it kept happening, always in different sections, always food or belongings that didn't come from the store. The third thing made me certain I wasn't alone. It was nearly 3 a.m. when I heard it. Footsteps. Light, quick, almost playful, padding along the showroom floor. I froze, listening. They came from the children's section. I raised my flashlight and followed, my boots echoing much louder than whatever I was chasing. When I turned the corner, the beam swept across a bedroom display. At first, it looked empty. Then I noticed the wardrobe against the far wall, slightly ajar. Something had been moved behind it, a panel shifted. I pulled the wardrobe away and felt my stomach lurch. Behind it wasn't a wall, it was a space. A hollowed-out nook carved into the drywall, large enough for a person, several people, to fit inside. My flashlight revealed blankets spread across the floor, piles of food wrappers, and crayon drawings taped up in uneven rows. The drawings showed houses, stick figure families, the IKEA logo itself. Then a face appeared in the beam. A little girl, no older than 6, peeking out from behind a stack of boxes. Her hair was tangled, her skin pale, her eyes huge and glassy in the light. She didn't scream, she didn't even look afraid. She just stared at me. I lowered the flashlight, heart hammering. "Hey, are you lost?" Before she could answer, a man's voice came from deeper inside the space. "She's not lost. She's home." A figure stepped forward, tall and thin, wearing an oversized sweatshirt. Behind him, a woman emerged carrying a toddler on her hip. Their clothes were rumpled and old, not dirty exactly, but lived in, the kind of wear you'd expect from weeks without a washing machine. My mouth went dry. You can't be here. The store is closed." The man raised his hands quickly, palms out like he thought I might attack. "Please, don't call anyone. We aren't hurting anyone." "You can't live here," I said, though my voice cracked. "This is a store." The woman's eyes darted to the showroom behind me, as if afraid something might come through. Her voice was hoarse, trembling. "We can't leave. It's not safe out there." My pulse thudded in my ears. "What's not safe?" The little girl answered this time, whispering so softly I almost missed it. "It's waiting." That word, it, chilled me more than anything else. I should have radioed for backup. I should have escorted them out. But the way they stood there, pressed together, terrified not of me, but of something else, it stopped me. Instead, I muttered, "I'll come back tomorrow." And I did. The next night, I brought sandwiches from a gas station. The little girl grabbed hers with both hands and devoured it. The parents thanked me in hushed tones, shadows etched deep beneath their eyes. Over the next weeks, I kept bringing food, bottled water, blankets, coloring books for the kids. Each time I asked where they came from, why they were here, I got vague answers. "We had a family," the father told me once. "They didn't make it out." "Out of what?" I pressed. He just shook his head. "The world isn't the same anymore." I thought maybe they were homeless, traumatized, clinging to delusions. But the longer I visited, the more uneasy I became. The family didn't change. The toddler never cried, not once. The little girl never laughed, no matter what I gave her. Their clothes never shifted, never looked dirtier or cleaner. It was like they were frozen in time. One night, I found a drawing waiting for me, taped to the wall just outside their nook. Crayons scrawled a scene I couldn't stop staring at. A stick figure version of me holding a flashlight, standing in the IKEA showroom. Behind me, in thick black crayon, was a massive shape. Long arms, jagged teeth, a darkness that seemed to stretch across the page. When I asked the girl what it was, she just whispered, "It follows us." After that, I started feeling watched during my rounds. Shadows stretched too long. Movements rippled at the edges of my vision. Once, I heard breathing in the warehouse, slow and deep. But when I shone the light, the racks were empty. My last night there, I went straight to the nook. I wanted answers. But the wardrobe was flush against the wall. No opening, no blankets, no crayons. I pushed and pulled, searched for seams in the drywall. Nothing. It was as if the space had never existed. I stumbled back, heart pounding, and ran the length of the showroom. No sign of them, no food wrappers, no drawings, nothing. I told my supervisor the next morning. She smirked. "You've been working too many nights. Take some vacation time." I quit instead, but they didn't leave me. That night, I woke up drenched in sweat. My apartment was silent, the city noise outside muffled as though the world itself had gone quiet. I turned on my bedside lamp. For a split second, I saw the little girl standing in the corner of my room, her eyes reflecting the light like mirrors. When I blinked, she was gone. The next night, I dreamed of IKEA's endless hallways, showrooms repeating forever, and in every one of them, the family stood in the corners, watching. The father's hollow eyes, the mother clutching the toddler, the girl whispering, "It's waiting." I don't shop anymore, I barely leave my apartment. But sometimes when I drive past the IKEA on the highway, I swear I see faces pressed to the glass windows after closing. Small, pale faces staring out. And every now and then, when I turn a corner in my own home, I expect to find a wardrobe nudged aside, drywall cut open, and a hollow space waiting. Big enough for a family to crawl inside and never come out. Saturdays at IKEA were always chaos. The parking lot overflowed with minivans. The food court swarmed with families balancing trays of meatballs and cinnamon rolls, and the showroom paths clogged with parents corralling their kids through endless displays. It was the kind of place where noise filled every corner, kids laughing, parents arguing about rugs, the scrape of carts across the floor. That's why the silence that fell that afternoon was so terrifying. It started in the children's furniture section. Bright colors everywhere, tiny bunk beds, miniature desks, beanbag chairs. My daughter, Lily, was 5, and as soon as we entered, she lit up like a Christmas tree. She ran from bed to bed, pressing the buttons that made the lamps glow, giggling as she climbed the ladders. My wife, Emily, and I tried to keep up, but Lily was quick, darting into every nook with boundless energy. "Stay where we can see you," Emily called. "I am," Lily shouted back, vanishing behind a castle-shaped play tent. I smiled at Emily. She's fine. There's only one exit. We lingered over a desk, discussing whether Lily was ready for one in her room, when I realized I hadn't heard her in a while. No laughter, no patter of feet, just the low hum of lights overhead. "Lily," I called, my voice sharper than I intended. No answer. We checked behind the play tent, empty. We searched under the beds, behind the dressers, through every corner of the display area. Nothing. Panic set in fast. "Maybe she went to the next section," Emily said, though her voice shook. We ran down the aisles, calling her name. Customers looked up, startled, some trying to help, others shrugging and moving on. Within minutes, store security was alerted. The intercom crackled to life. "Attention, we are looking for a missing child, 5 years old, named Lily." Employees spread out, blocking exits, sweeping the store. My heart pounded as I imagined the worst, someone taking her, dragging her out to the parking lot, gone before we could blink. But then one employee froze near a display cabinet. It was a glass front wardrobe, sealed tight with child-proof locks, part of a set that showed how storage could be used in a playroom. And on the inside of the glass, on the inside, was a handprint. Small, smudged, perfectly formed. Emily gasped. That's hers. I pressed my palm against the glass. It was cold, too cold. The employees fumbled with the latch, forcing it open. The cabinet was empty, just clean white shelves. But I swear I smelled something. Faint, sweet, like Lily's shampoo. She couldn't have fit in there. One of the guards muttered, shaking his head. It's locked. No way. But the handprint was proof. My daughter had been there. Somehow. Hours dragged by. Police arrived, combing through security footage. They showed us grainy videos of Lily running through the children's section, laughing, touching everything. Then she walked toward the cabinet. The footage glitched. Just a flicker. And when it returned, she was gone. No one else entered, no one else left, just gone. Emily broke down sobbing. I sat numb, staring at the empty cabinet. The police tried to comfort us. Sometimes kids hide in crawl spaces, ventilation systems. She's probably somewhere in the building, but she wasn't. By closing time, the store was emptied, the aisles crawling with officers, dogs, security teams. They searched every corner, every warehouse rack, every bathroom stall, nothing. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. That night, we went home without her. It was the worst night of my life, but the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, I went back to IKEA. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. The police had stopped searching. They told us it was an abduction, that someone must have slipped her past the cameras, but I didn't believe that. I knew the truth had something to do with that cabinet. I walked to the children's section alone. It was quieter without Lily's laughter bouncing off the walls. The cabinet stood there, locked and clean, like nothing had happened. But when I leaned close, I saw it again. Another handprint. Small, faint, smudged against the glass from the inside. "Lily," I whispered, and then I heard it. A giggle, her giggle. Muffled, distant, but unmistakable. My heart leapt. I pounded on the glass. "Lily, it's Daddy!" The giggle stopped. The shelves rattled. And for a brief moment I saw her. Her face pressed against the glass, eyes wide, lips moving as if calling for me. I screamed for help, tugging at the lock until my hands bled. But by the time an employee rushed over with keys, she was gone. The cabinet was empty. I don't remember leaving the store. I don't remember driving home. I only remember Emily's face when I told her. She didn't believe me. Or maybe she couldn't, but I know what I saw. That was months ago. Since then, I've gone back every week. Sometimes the handprint is there, sometimes not. But when it is, it's always higher, like she's growing inside that impossible space. Once, I thought I saw other prints too. Smaller, fainter, dozens of tiny hands pressing from within. I asked one of the older employees about it. His face paled. He told me in a hushed voice that decades ago another child went missing in the same section. A boy. They never found him. The only clue? A handprint inside a display cabinet. Now, I don't know if Lily is trapped, alive somewhere behind that glass, or if she's been taken into something else entirely. Something that feeds on children in places meant to feel safe. I've stopped sleeping in my bed. Instead, I sit in the dark, staring at my own wardrobe. Watching. Waiting. Because sometimes when the room is silent, I hear it. A giggle, a faint tapping, and a small handprint smearing across the inside of the glass. When I first started working the night shift at IKEA, the managers assured me the job would be boring. "You'll mostly just walk the aisles and watch the monitors," they said. "Keep the lights on, keep the warehouse locked, that's it." And for the first few weeks, they were right. After closing, the endless chatter of customers and squeals of children gave way to silence, broken only by the low hum of fluorescent lights and the distant clatter of pipes. I'd patrol the showrooms, make sure no one had gotten locked inside, then sit in the office with stale coffee until dawn. Easy money. But around the third month, I started noticing him. It was subtle at first, just movement at the far end of an aisle when I was certain I was alone. A figure bent over with a broom, sweeping the floor. An older man, maybe late 50s or early 60s. He wore a faded blue uniform, the kind employees used years ago before the company updated to yellow polos. The first time, I thought nothing of it. Must be a janitor, I figured, someone working late. But when I asked the cleaning staff about him, they gave me confused looks. "No one else works nights," one said. "It's just us and you." Still, I kept seeing him. Always at a distance, always pushing his broom in slow, deliberate strokes. He never looked up, never spoke. Sometimes I'd turn a corner and he'd vanish, the floor spotless as if nothing had been there. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I walked toward him, my footsteps echoing in the empty store. "Hey!" I called, my voice bouncing off the walls. "You're not supposed to be here after hours." He didn't respond, didn't even pause. Just kept sweeping, the bristles whispering across the tile. I quickened my pace. "Sir, I need to see your badge." By the time I reached the end of the aisle, he was gone. No doors, no corners, just a long stretch of empty floor that shone under the lights, as if freshly polished. That was the first time I felt it. The wrongness. The sense that the store wasn't as empty as it seemed. The sightings continued. Sometimes I'd catch him in the reflection of a showroom mirror, his back bent, his broom moving in steady arcs. Once, I saw him standing in the warehouse, sweeping between racks stacked with flat-pack boxes. I hurried in, sure I'd finally corner him, but when I turned the corner, the aisle was empty, dust swirling in the air where he'd just been. I brought it up to my supervisor. She chuckled. "You're not the first guard to see him." They call him Carl. "Carl? Yeah, used to be a janitor here. Died on the job. Oh, maybe 10 years ago. Heart attack in the warehouse. Poor guy. But some people say he never clocked out." She said it like a joke, but I didn't laugh. That night, when I passed the cleaning supply closet, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, leaning against the wall, was a broom. Old, wooden, its bristles worn to nubs, and etched faintly into the handle was a name. Carl. After that, things got worse. I started hearing the broom at night. Not seeing him, just hearing it. That steady, dragging scrape across tile. It followed me down aisles, echoed behind me when I turned corners. Sometimes it stopped the second I froze, sometimes it didn't. Then the lights began flickering. Entire sections would plunge into shadow, leaving only a faint glow from emergency exits. And in the darkness, I'd see him. Closer this time. His face gaunt, his eyes sunken. His lips moved like he was whispering something, but no sound came out. The broom scraped louder. I stopped doing full rounds. I couldn't. Every time I entered the showrooms, I felt him waiting. Watching. I stayed in the office as much as I could, cameras flickering with static whenever the aisles went dark. One night, the monitors caught him clearly. For the first time, I saw his face. Wrinkled, hollow, his skin gray with death. He was staring directly into the camera, not sweeping, just staring. And his lips formed words I could finally read. Go home. I did. I left early, sprinting out the back exit into the parking lot. I told myself I'd quit, that no paycheck was worth this. But when I got home, the smell of industrial cleaner followed me. My apartment reeked of pine sol and dust. And when I went to bed, I dreamed of sweeping. Endless sweeping, down aisles that never ended. My hands blistered from the broom handle. My back ached, bent low. And somewhere behind me, a voice whispered, "You'll take my place." The dreams became nightly, each one longer, more vivid, until I woke one morning to find dust on my sheets, like I'd been sweeping in my sleep. The final night, I returned to work, determined to confront him. I couldn't keep living like this. The moment I stepped into the children's section, I heard it, the scrape of bristles across tile, louder than ever. "Carl!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Show yourself." And he did. He stepped out from the shadows, broom in hand, his uniform faded, almost transparent. His face was sunken, his skin sagging, but his eyes glowed faintly under the fluorescent lights. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered, trembling. He shook his head slowly. Then he held out the broom. The wooden handle extended toward me like an offering. "I don't want it," I said, backing away. His voice finally reached me, raspy, dry, barely human. "Someone has to." The lights flickered. My radio crackled. And suddenly I wasn't in IKEA anymore. I was in the dream. Aisles stretching forever. Dust thick in the air. The broom heavy in my hand. I woke up hours later, lying in the middle of the store. The broom was clutched in my fist. I quit the next morning. Never went back. But the sweeping never stopped. Now, every night in my apartment I hear it, that steady drag of bristles across the floor. Sometimes I find piles of dust in my living room, though I never sweep. And in the mirror, just behind my reflection, I see him. Bent, sweeping, waiting for me to finally take his place. I've always liked IKEA. Something about the clean lines of the furniture, the cheap food court meals, and the illusion of order in all those showrooms comforted me. But now, when I step into one, my stomach knots with dread. Because of what happened that day in the lighting section, the day I lost time. It started like any normal Saturday. My girlfriend Marissa wanted to pick out lamps for her apartment. I didn't care much about decor, but I went along, pushing the cart while she compared floor lamps, desk lamps, pendant lights, bulbs of every shape and brightness. The section was blinding, rows upon rows of glowing fixtures, their warm light blending into a dizzying haze. "Hold this," she said, shoving a lamp box into my arms before darting off toward another display. I sighed, shifting the weight. That's when I saw it. An old lamp tucked in the corner. Not modern like the others. Brass, heavy-looking, with a shade that had yellowed with age. Something about it felt wrong. Out of place. I stepped closer. The tag was faded, the writing almost illegible. My fingers brushed the switch. The moment I touched it, a wave of dizziness hit me. The lights overhead buzzed louder, flickered, and for a split second the entire store went dark. When the light returned, everything had changed. The rows of lamps were gone. The glossy showroom walls replaced by unfinished beams and raw concrete. The air smelled of sawdust and paint. Workers in overalls moved around me, carrying lumber, speaking Swedish. None of them glanced my way. Panic clawed up my throat. "Marissa!" I shouted. My voice echoed strangely. She didn't answer. One of the workers passed by, his face pale, his eyes hollow, as though he hadn't slept in days. He carried a sign, blue background, yellow letters. The letters weren't fully painted yet, dripping wet. IKEA. I stumbled backward, my chest tightening. This wasn't a store anymore, it was a construction site. And not just any site, it looked like the beginning of it all. The first IKEA. My watch beeped. The time flickered, 3:47 p.m., then rolled backward in jerky jumps, digits spinning until it landed on a date I didn't recognize. Decades in the past. I ran. My footsteps pounded against unfinished floors, echoing too loudly, too long. I tore past stacks of uncut wood, through half-formed showrooms until I burst into what should have been the warehouse. But the shelves were empty, just skeleton frames stretching upward into shadow. And in the far corner stood a man. He was tall, gaunt, dressed in clothes I couldn't place. Too old-fashioned, too stiff. He didn't move, didn't blink. His face was blank, his hands clasped behind his back. I thought he was a worker until he spoke. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was thin, stretched, like it had traveled a long way to reach me. I don't know how I got here," I stammered. "I just touched a lamp." He tilted his head. "It doesn't matter. Time doesn't belong to you anymore." Before I could respond, the lights overhead flickered again. The walls shifted, the air shimmering like heat on asphalt. Suddenly, I was in a different IKEA, still old but further along, fully built, with racks of furniture wrapped in plastic. Empty except for me and the man, who now stood closer, watching. "Stop," I whispered. "Please, send me back." "You can't go back," he said calmly. "You can only go forward." The lights buzzed. Again, the store transformed. Now, I was in the 1970s, judging by the shag carpets, the avocado green furniture displays. Customers wandered the aisles, oblivious to me, their movements stiff, unnatural, like puppets on strings. Their eyes were glassy, unfocused. None of them made a sound. I stumbled through them, begging anyone to look at me. No one did. And always in the corner of every showroom, the man stood, silent, patient, watching. The jumps kept coming. The store shifted around me. Different eras, different furniture, different customers. The 1980s bright and tacky, the 1990s sleek and sterile. Each time, more people filled the aisles, but none of them were real. They never blinked, never spoke. Just mannequins in motion. Time wasn't moving forward normally. It was skipping, jerking, like a scratched record. I begged for it to stop. Finally, I found myself back in the lighting section. Modern, fluorescents buzzing overhead, familiar displays glowing warm. Relief flooded me. I spun around searching for Marissa. She was there, only a few feet away, holding a lamp box, frowning. "Where did you go?" I turned around and you were gone. I ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. "Marissa, you won't believe me, but I think I—" She cut me off. "You've been acting weird." It was like 2 minutes, tops. 2 minutes. I looked at my watch. The date was correct. The time was correct. But my phone told a different story. Dozens of missed messages, all from Marissa. Each one time-stamped across 3 hours. 3 hours had passed. But to her, it was only minutes. That night, I tried to forget. Tried to convince myself I had fainted, hallucinated. But then I noticed something on my arm, a smear of paint, blue and yellow. The same dripping colors I'd seen on the half-finished IKEA sign decades earlier. I scrubbed at it until my skin burned, but it wouldn't come off. Since then, it's only gotten worse. Some nights I wake up in my bed to the smell of sawdust, to the sound of hammers echoing through my apartment walls. Sometimes I blink and find myself in the middle of another IKEA era, customers moving silently around me, mannequins pretending at life. Each time, the man is there, closer than before, whispering, "Forward." I don't know how much longer I'll last. I'm afraid one day I'll blink and never come back, that I'll be stuck in some unfinished showroom, dust thick in the air, mannequins watching me forever. And when they finally find me, if they ever do, maybe I'll be nothing more than another display. When you're a broke college student, you find entertainment in strange places. For us, it was IKEA. There were 4 of us that night: me, my roommate Tyler, his girlfriend Mia, and our friend Jordan. We'd been drinking cheap beer in the dorms when someone suggested sneaking into the IKEA across town. It was open late, but we wanted to stay after hours. "Imagine wandering that place at night," Tyler said. "Empty, creepy, like a maze." Mia rolled her eyes but went along. Jordan grinned like it was the best idea in the world. And me, I didn't want to look like a coward. We waited in the parking lot until just before closing, then slipped in behind a delivery truck at the loading dock. No one noticed us duck inside. The air in the warehouse smelled like sawdust and cardboard. Huge shelves stretched into shadow, stacked with flat-pack boxes. We crept through until we reached the showroom. It was eerie without customers. No voices, no kids, no carts squeaking along the floors. Just silence, the faint buzz of overhead lights, and endless staged rooms that looked too perfect, too lifeless. At first, it was fun. We explored kitchens, sprawled on beds, pretended to live in those little apartment setups. Jordan even filmed us on his phone, joking about living in IKEA forever. But then, around midnight, we decided to leave. That's when it started. We followed the arrows on the floor toward the exit, but the arrows twisted strangely, leading us in circles. We ended up back in the children's section twice. Tyler laughed nervously. "Okay, we messed up. Let's just use the emergency exit." We found one near the dining displays. Red sign glowing above the door. Tyler pushed it open. Cold air rushed in, but outside wasn't a parking lot, it was another showroom. We stood frozen. Same bright lights, same furniture staged neatly in rows, but the scale felt off. The ceiling lower, the lights dimmer, the air heavier. "Did we just walk back inside?" Mia asked. "No way," Tyler muttered. "This is a fire exit. It should go outside." We went through again. Same thing. Another showroom, nearly identical but with slight differences. The couches were darker, the walls a shade of yellow instead of white. We tried another emergency exit, then another. Each door opened to another showroom, each one stranger than the last. One had furniture from the wrong decade, orange and brown, like the 1970s. Another had displays wrapped in plastic, unfinished, as though still being set up. Jordan stopped filming. His hands shook. This is a prank, right? They build the store in layers or something?" But Mia's face told us the truth. This wasn't a prank. We tried to backtrack, following the arrows in reverse, but they kept leading us to new rooms, Kitchens, bedrooms, offices, each slightly distorted, as if the store were bending around us. Hours passed. My phone's battery drained. There was no signal. The clocks on the wall all read different times. Some fast, some slow. Then the mannequins appeared. They weren't there before. Now, in the living room setups, plastic families sat on couches, posed with frozen smiles. In kitchens, mannequins held utensils in stiff hands. Their faces were blank, featureless ovals. Tyler kicked one over, swearing. It hit the floor with a hollow clatter. But when we turned the corner, there were more. Hundreds more. They filled the aisles, standing between displays, crowding the paths. All featureless, all still. But I swear some of their heads tilted toward us as we passed. Mia started crying. "We have to get out. We have to." We sprinted through the maze, not caring which way we went. My lungs burned, my legs shook, but every turn revealed more rooms. Bedrooms bleeding into kitchens, offices melting into living rooms, mannequins everywhere. Finally, we saw another exit sign. We barreled toward it, shoving the door open. This time, it was dark. The room beyond wasn't a showroom. It was empty. Just concrete floors, walls unpainted, lights swinging overhead. The mannequins lined the walls, shoulder to shoulder, staring with their blank faces. At the far end, a single door glowed red. We ran for it. Tyler grabbed the handle, yanking it open. And we were back in the children's section, exactly where we started. Mia collapsed, sobbing. Jordan sat against a bunk bed, clutching his head. Tyler slammed his fists into the wall, screaming. I just stood there, numb, staring at the displays. The store felt different now, quieter, heavier. And then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The posters on the walls, the ones that had always advertised furniture, storage, decorations. Now they were covered in photographs of us, me, Tyler, Mia, Jordan, grainy stills, taken while we wandered the store earlier. Taken from angles we never saw anyone standing. One showed me laughing at a couch, another showed Mia climbing onto a bed, another, Jordan, filming us. And one more. Tyler, opening an emergency exit. Behind him, in the darkness of the doorway, a tall shadow waited. We fled. We didn't care where. We ran until our bodies gave out, collapsing in yet another living room setup. We must have blacked out because when I opened my eyes again, sunlight streamed through the windows. We were in the cafeteria. Employees bustled around, prepping for the morning crowd. A manager frowned when she saw us. How the hell did you kids get in here? We were escorted out, warned never to sneak in again. To them, it was just a harmless prank. But none of us spoke. None of us said what we really saw. Jordan deleted the footage from his phone. Tyler dropped out of school a month later. Mia doesn't talk to me anymore. As for me, I don't sleep well. Sometimes I dream of endless rooms, of blank mannequins waiting silently in the aisles. And sometimes, when I wake up at night, I see the glow of a red exit sign in the corner of my room. The storm rolled in just before closing. Sheets of rain pounded against the glass storefront, thunder rattling the floor, and flashes of lightning lit the parking lot like a strobe. I was one of the last customers in the store that night, killing time after work, wandering through the endless aisles of furniture I couldn't afford. The announcement came over the intercom while I was in the food court, finishing a plate of meatballs. Attention customers. Due to severe weather conditions, all guests are asked to remain inside until further notice. Please stay calm and follow staff instructions. People groaned. Some cursed. A few families shrugged and returned to their trays of food. I figured it would blow over in an hour, so I tossed my trash and settled in to wait. But it didn't blow over. The rain intensified, hammering the roof like fists. Lightning flashed so bright it turned the store into a negative photo for an instant. The TVs in the electronics section flickered on all at once, though no one had touched them. Static hissed, then a news broadcast filled every screen. The footage was chaotic. Crowds running through burning streets, smoke choking the sky, sirens wailing. Cities I recognized, New York, Los Angeles, London, all shone in flames. The newscaster's voice cracked with panic. Worldwide state of emergency. Infrastructure collapse. Communication failures. Someone near me muttered, "What the hell is this?" A manager hurried forward, fumbling with the remote. "Sorry, folks, this is just a technical glitch." He pressed buttons, but nothing changed. The broadcast continued, louder, more frantic. Then the feed cut to black. The entire store went silent. That's when the lights went out. The hum of fluorescent bulbs died, plunging us into near darkness. A few emergency lights blinked on, bathing the food court in a weak red glow. Parents clutched their children, voices hushed. The storm outside stopped. Just like that, no thunder, no rain, no wind. I walked to the window, pressing my face against the glass. My stomach dropped. The parking lot was covered in ash, not snow. Ash. It blanketed the cars, the pavement, everything, drifting in waves under a pitch-black sky. No moon, no stars, just darkness swallowing everything beyond the edge of the lot. I stumbled back. There's nothing out there. People rushed to see for themselves. Gasps filled the air. A woman screamed. The manager barked orders, trying to calm everyone. "Please, step away from the windows. We'll wait for emergency crews." But there were no emergency crews. Hours passed. The storm never returned. The outside world stayed dark and silent, the ash piling higher against the glass. We were trapped. The first night, we camped in the showrooms. Families claimed bedrooms, dragging mattresses into corners. I curled up on a couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every so often, I thought I heard something scraping against the windows, but when I looked, nothing was there. By the second day, the food court was raided. People lined up for meatballs, hot dogs, anything that could be cooked quickly. The staff tried to ration supplies, but panic made everyone greedy. The TVs flickered back on. No remote, no power, just static, then flashes of the same news broadcast, looping endlessly. Fires, screams, sirens. Until the feed warped, the voices slowing into guttural moans, the images twisting into shapes I couldn't recognize. On the third day, the ash reached halfway up the windows. We couldn't see outside anymore. The store was our world. People whispered about trying the exits, but every time someone opened a door, it led only to more showrooms. Not the parking lot, not freedom, just endless displays stretching into darkness. I stopped looking for exits. On the fourth day, the mannequins moved. It started small. A dining display one family had claimed suddenly had an extra figure sitting at the table, plastic hands folded, blank face staring. A child swore it wasn't there the night before. We laughed it off at first, but then they multiplied. In the kitchens, mannequins stood at counters, frozen mid-chop with knives in their hands. In bedrooms, they lay under blankets, plastic heads resting on pillows. In the food court, they sat at tables, mouths open as if mid-bite. None of us saw them move. They were just there. People started disappearing. One man went to the bathroom and never came back. A mother screamed when her daughter vanished between aisles. We searched, but found only mannequins where they had been. One mannequin wore the girl's pink backpack. By the 6th day, we stopped sleeping. The lights flickered constantly, buzzing like angry insects. The mannequins stood closer every time we blinked, their blank faces tilted toward us. The staff gave up trying to lead. One manager locked himself in the office. When we finally broke down the door, all we found was a broom leaning against the chair, dust scattered across the floor. I don't know what day it is anymore. The clocks all read different times, some racing forward, others frozen. The TVs still flicker with static, but sometimes I see myself in the feed, sitting in the food court, staring blankly at the screen. The ash has buried the windows completely now. There's no way to tell what's outside. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. The mannequins are watching me as I write this. They've surrounded the couch I've claimed, their faceless heads tilted just so, like they're waiting for me to stop moving. I think when I do, when I finally close my eyes and don't open them again, I'll be one of them. Another figure in the showroom. Another piece of furniture in the apocalypse that began inside IKEA. And if you ever find yourself trapped in one of these stores after closing, don't wait for the storm to pass. Don't wait for the doors to unlock. Because when they finally do, it won't be the world you remember waiting outside. The storm rolled in just before closing. Sheets of rain pounded against the glass storefront, thunder rattling the floor, and flashes of lightning lit the parking lot like a strobe. I was one of the last customers in the store that night, killing time after work, wandering through the endless aisles of furniture I couldn't afford. The announcement came over the intercom while I was in the food court, finishing a plate of meatballs. Attention customers. Due to severe weather conditions, all guests are asked to remain inside until further notice. Please stay calm and follow staff instructions. People groaned. Some cursed. A few families shrugged and returned to their trays of food. I figured it would blow over in an hour, so I tossed my trash and settled in to wait. But it didn't blow over. The rain intensified, hammering the roof like fists. Lightning flashed so bright it turned the store into a negative photo for an instant. The TVs in the electronics section flickered on all at once, though no one had touched them. Static hissed, then a news broadcast filled every screen. The footage was chaotic. Crowds running through burning streets, smoke choking the sky, sirens wailing. Cities I recognized, New York, Los Angeles, London, all shone in flames. The newscaster's voice cracked with panic. Worldwide state of emergency. Infrastructure collapse. Communication failures. Someone near me muttered, "What the hell is this?" A manager hurried forward, fumbling with the remote. "Sorry, folks, this is just a technical glitch." He pressed buttons, but nothing changed. The broadcast continued, louder, more frantic. Then the feed cut to black. The entire store went silent. That's when the lights went out. The hum of fluorescent bulbs died, plunging us into near darkness. A few emergency lights blinked on, bathing the food court in a weak red glow. Parents clutched their children, voices hushed. The storm outside stopped. Just like that, no thunder, no rain, no wind. I walked to the window, pressing my face against the glass. My stomach dropped. The parking lot was covered in ash, not snow. Ash. It blanketed the cars, the pavement, everything, drifting in waves under a pitch-black sky. No moon, no stars, just darkness swallowing everything beyond the edge of the lot. I stumbled back. There's nothing out there. People rushed to see for themselves. Gasps filled the air. A woman screamed. The manager barked orders, trying to calm everyone. Please, step away from the windows. We'll wait for emergency crews. But there were no emergency crews. Hours passed. The storm never returned. The outside world stayed dark and silent, the ash piling higher against the glass. We were trapped. The first night, we camped in the showrooms. Families claimed bedrooms, dragging mattresses into corners. I curled up on a couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every so often, I thought I heard something scraping against the windows, but when I looked, nothing was there. By the second day, the food court was raided. People lined up for meatballs, hot dogs, anything that could be cooked quickly. The staff tried to ration supplies, but panic made everyone greedy. The TVs flickered back on. No remote, no power, just static, then flashes of the same news broadcast, looping endlessly. Fires, screams, sirens. Until the feed warped, the voices slowing into guttural moans, the images twisting into shapes I couldn't recognize. On the third day, the ash reached halfway up the windows. We couldn't see outside anymore. The store was our world. People whispered about trying the exits, but every time someone opened a door, it led only to more showrooms. Not the parking lot, not freedom, just endless displays stretching into darkness. I stopped looking for exits. On the fourth day, the mannequins moved. It started small. A dining display one family had claimed suddenly had an extra figure sitting at the table, plastic hands folded, blank face staring. A child swore it wasn't there the night before. We laughed it off at first, but then they multiplied. In the kitchens, mannequins stood at counters, frozen mid-chop with knives in their hands. In bedrooms, they lay under blankets, plastic heads resting on pillows. In the food court, they sat at tables, mouths open as if mid-bite. None of us saw them move. They were just there. People started disappearing. One man went to the bathroom and never came back. A mother screamed when her daughter vanished between aisles. We searched, but found only mannequins where they had been. One mannequin wore the girl's pink backpack. By the sixth day, we stopped sleeping. The lights flickered constantly, buzzing like angry insects. The mannequins stood closer every time we blinked, their blank faces tilted toward us. The staff gave up trying to lead. One manager locked himself in the office. When we finally broke down the door, all we found was a broom leaning against the chair, dust scattered across the floor. I don't know what day it is anymore. The clocks all read different times, some racing forward, others frozen. The TVs still flicker with static, but sometimes I see myself in the feed, sitting in the food court, staring blankly at the screen. The ash has buried the windows completely now. There's no way to tell what's outside. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. The mannequins are watching me as I write this. They've surrounded the couch I've claimed, their faceless heads tilted just so, like they're waiting for me to stop moving. I think when I do, when I finally close my eyes and don't open them again, I'll be one of them. Another figure in the showroom. Another piece of furniture in the apocalypse that began inside IKEA. And if you ever find yourself trapped in one of these stores after closing, don't wait for the storm to pass. Don't wait for the doors to unlock. Because when they finally do, it won't be the world you remember waiting outside.